Okay.
Maraming salamat po sa inyong pagtsatsaga. Muli nagbabalik ang Katipunan Channel dito po sa ating espesyal na programa Talakayan Bayan, Bisperas ng SONA Part 2. Kanina po, pinag-uusapan natin yung 9 na milyong boto na kung saan ay dito sa Bisperas ng SONA ay Bisperas din po ng susunod na eleksyon sa 2022. Kaya kung sino po makakakuha ng 9 na milyong boto na ito ng mga malamang yung isang oligarko at yung isa pa ay mag-uunahan at tataas pa yan. Yan yung ating dinidiscuss kanina nung tayo ay maputol, Sir Gil. Ano po?
Opo, chill lang, okay lang naman. Ano ba yung gusto niyo itanong?
Well, tinatanong namin kung nagkaroon sila ng pamamaraan na madagdagan ng 9 million registered voters yung 2016 to 2019. Ibig sabihin niyan, kung hindi natin sila pipigilin o hindi natin i-abolish ang COMELEC, baka gumawa na naman sila ng pagdagdag from 2019 to 2022. Baka 9 million votes na naman ng registered voters ang idadagdag niyan. No?
18 million na yun.
So, by that time, 18 million na yan. Sapat na yun para maka-elect ka talaga ng isang isang presidente na maski...
Boto ni PRRD, 16 million.
Puro
18 million.
Magiging puro boto ng mga patay at namatay na. No? Itong,
yung maximum po na 14.7 million sa estimate ko sa 2019 ay sapat na makapag-elect ng number 12 na senator.
14 million po? 14, hindi yung 9 million?
14.
Ang totoong padded votes natin sa kwan, ang maximum estimate ko 14.7 million.
Wow.
Yung dinagdag nila ang dinagdag nila nung itong ni Abbas, mga 6 to 7 million lamang. Pero dati nang may 6 to 7 million din na 2016 nandoon na dati.
Oh.
Yun ang matalik na boto ni Abalos nung siya ay maging chairman. Nagsimula ang pagbalik ng lahat ng padded votes panahon ni Abalos. Nalinis po ito noong 1998 at saka 2001 dahil sa inadvertently nalinis ito ni Fidel Ramos dahil gusto niya magpapirma, yung kanyang pirma petition para siya ay makatakbo ulit. Kaya dapat alinisin niya para ma-meet niya easily yung threshold na 3% ng botante kada congressional district. Kaya nalinis yung ating election registry noong 1998 at 2001. Pero pinapakita natin dito na mula pa noong 1992, talamak na yung dayaan ng COMELEC. Wala pang Smartmatic, mandaraya ng COMELEC. At saka ginagamit nila ang kanilang pagiging constitutional body para hindi sila maimbestigahan ng mga tao na sabihin nila, it's our constitutional prerogative na kami ay magdesisyon ng gusto namin gawin. Kaya nga naipasok nila itong foreignero na ito dahil sa paggamit nila ng ganung constitutional cover na yon. Kaya sinasabi ko, yung 1987 Constitution natin ay ginagamit ngayon ng mga plutocrats o ng mga oligarko para kontrolin ang pag-produce ng mga manufactured senators at congressman. Pinapabayaan nila ang lokal kasi yung lokal talagang iba ang kaya niyan. Pero pinapakialaman nila yung mga ilihidong opisyal na may apekto sa national policy. Yun po ay mga congressman na nasa House of Representatives at saka senador. Ang kalagayan po ngayon ay hawak ng oligarko itong factory ng mga fake senators at fake congressmen. Kaya habang andyan yan, captured nila yung national policy making process ng ating bansa.
That's right. Gusto sabihin, hindi ang Smartmatic lang ang may katiwalian. Itong COMELEC ay mas malaki pa kasi dito nakasandal yung Smartmatic at ginagamit nila yung Smartmatic. Kung ganyan ang ating conclusion, dapat siguro totoo na yung minumungkahi mo, GIL Ramos, na ipa-abolish na natin ang buong COMELEC. Di po ba?
Ipa-abolish po natin ang buong 1987 Constitution. Kasi yun po ang bibigay protection sa ating COMELEC. Kasi yan ang ginagamit nila para sila ay hindi maimbestigahan. At saka ngayon, dahil sa marami na silang na-elect na mga idinaya nilang senador at idinaya nilang congressman, lalo na yung mga party list na yan ang kanilang pag-manufacture ng congressman. Kaya tingnan mo yung nangyari sa ating past election, yung party list, padded yung mga botong nakuha niyan. Yan ang mga defenders nila. Kaya sabi nila, kahit may imbestigahan tayo, ay andyan naman yung mga na-elect nating senador at saka congressmen. Napuna ko ng mga joint congressional meeting doon sa Senado na ginawa ni Coco Pimentel, yung huli niyang meeting, ang isang avid defender niya, itong isang kongresista na galing sa party list ng mga senior citizen. Kasama po yung party list na pinapandaya nila ang eleksyon na yan. Kasi madaling bayaran at saka madaling ayusin yung pag-pad ng boto sa party list. Yun pong mga congressmen regular districts, medyo mahirap kasi medyo mainit ang ulo ng mga yan. May mga followings yan. May mga private army yan. Magkakamatayan yan kung magdaya sila doon. Kaya ang kanilang pinapandaya mga congressman, itong mga party list. At saka yun pong sa mga pagdaya nila sa senador, hindi lang yung pagpapanalo sa eleksyon yung kanilang ginagawa, kundi binibenta rin ng mga sindikatong yan yung ranking. Katotohanan lang po, sa batay sa survey ng bayan na yung aking survey firm na pinapatakbo ko, ang totoong top notcher sa eleksyon na to na nakaraan ay si Bongo. At number 2 si Bato de la Rosa. Si Villar po ay number 3 lamang. At saka number 4 at number 5 ranking na patas na equal ay si Aimee Marcos sa Grace po. Saka yung ranking po yan ay talagang minamanipulate na binabayaran po yan ng minimum na 250 million pesos para makakuha mong mga ranking na gusto mo. Mukhang natalo si Ramon ang sa bidding. Kaya si Villar ang naging number 1 sa halip na si Grace po. Kasi si Ramon ang bata niya, si Grace po. Kaya itong mga oligarkong ito, hindi naman yan monopoly na isa lang ang desisyon. Sila ay pumapasok sa sitwasyon na nag-outbidding sila, ginagamit nila ang pera nila para mamanipula nila yung mga resulta ng ating eleksyon, lalo na sa national policy making. Ang Villar at saka po na contest ay para sa positioning nila para sa presidential election ng 2022. Ganyan po ang kalokohan ng ating eleksyon. Kaya po, sinasabi natin, batay sa natuklasan kong pagpapading nila ng boto mula pa noong 1992, yung COMELEC ang talagang promotor niyan. Ang COMELEC talagang may kasalanan niyan. Instrumento lang nila ang Smartmatic. Kasi nandun na ang pandaraya bago pa nagkaroon ng Smartmatic.
Paano kaya natin bubuwagin itong 1987 Constitution? Ano mga pamaraanan ang pwedeng mangyari para itong 1987, itong depektibong saligang batas na 1987 ay mistulan ng talagang ibuwag?
Talaga naman po na kailangan buwagin yan at saka ang pwersa lang ng tao ang pwedeng bumuwag niyan. Pero batay sa recognition ng sinasabi nga ni Mao Zedong, yung talagang poder o power comes out of the barrel of a gun. So the people have to use the people among them or the segment, the scholars who they paid for in the PMA, who are now officers of the land, to begin to protect the continued and stop the continued rape of our electoral sovereignty. This concept that power goes out of the barrel of the gun is recognized even in the 1987 de facto constitution, wherein we have a protector clause and says that ultimately, if there is a transgression of the sovereignty of the people, only the armed forces can protect the people from such transgressions. And we have to emphasize the fact that our electoral sovereignty has been continuously raped and persistently raped as a continuing crime of this institution called the COMELEC, which is protected under this 1987 Constitution. To such an extent that they were able to insert into our electoral process a foreign entity, which they used in the process of making manufactured senators and manufactured congressmen, particularly the party list congressmen. They are manufactured congressmen, most of them.
Actually, there are already two violations in the Constitution. One is the appointment of Abbas as a commissioner to become a chairman. It is clear in the Constitution that when the chairman, the seat of the chairman of COMELEC has been vacated, no confirmed commissioner shall be appointed as chairman. Davide versus Brillantes case yan, no? And the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Brillantes when he objected to the appointment of si Heidi Yorak when Davide was called to serve the Supreme Court Justice. And then the second violation is Coco Pimentel running for the third time when it's clear in the Constitution that only a senatorial candidate can only be elected twice continuously, and he's already been elected on the third time. So there are already two clear violations coming from the electoral jurisdiction. Would
Well,
that be
from my
grounds
point of view,
to abolish the Constitution?
From my point of view, based on our experience with the 1987 Constitution, the 1987 Constitution is a violation of the constitutionalist right of the people, because constitutionalism has to recognize the principle that the welfare of the people is the supreme law, and the Constitution is just created by the people. If the welfare of the people is being transgressed to the continued violation of the electoral sovereignty, and this particular instantiation of constitutionalism called the 1987 Constitution, a document, a paper document, is really just a piece of paper. And this piece of paper right now, according to the Gong, is just toilet paper. It is correct, because this has been transgressed so many times. It has to be used just to clear up the basura and use it to clean up all the sewage in our political process.
Would that put us in a constitutional crisis?
We have to induce a military man to take over the country. Because right now, technically, everybody has no mandate. Because all of them are produced by a poison tree, and therefore they are poison fruits.
And
Even technically, even the mandate of the Gong is also tenuous in the legal ground. However, it's really true that he was the choice of the people. However, he is part of the process because the process itself, the entire process, is polluted. The entire process is defective. It cannot produce true tribunes and true representatives of the people. So technically, nobody has a mandate. And therefore, if nobody has the mandate, who has the power? The power that comes out of the barrel of a gun, which is the military people. If the military people says, alis kayo dyan, kasi kami may baril, they have the power, they can take over. They can legally do that.
in
Right
effect, that is, when you say they can legally do that, that is precisely their mandate, to
That
protect
is
the
precisely
people.
their mandate because they are the ones who hold the guns. The people have delegated that process to them. It is not a particular, what do you call this? It's not a particular principle enshrined in the 1987 Constitution. The protector clause is not particular to the 1987 Constitution. It is just a recognition of the fact that the people who holds the guns are the powerful people in any group of a polity. Therefore, they have to protect the rest of the polity once that group is threatened by anything. And our sovereignty has been threatened, has been raped, has been subverted by the COMELEC in cahoots with a foreign entity. And there is no reason anymore for the military to hold back. They can take over the country anytime, and they will have the legal mandate to do that as asked for by our constitutionalist principles. In the same way that a constitution cannot say that the people have the right to revolt anytime if they don't want this constitution anymore, that is also made explicit only through the protector clause of the people. Because they have and right now the military is enjoying the support of the people, unlike the time in the past wherein the military was seen as an instrument of suppression of our rights. Right now, the military, I think, is popular, and if there is a leader who has the guts enough to take over, then he can legally do it. He has the mandate to do it, and he can revert and go back to our seminal document, which is the 1899 Constitution. And they would not be imposing a dictatorship on the land. In fact, the 1899 document was created by our founding fathers to control the dictatorial tendencies of Aguinaldo. So therefore, when the military goes back and swears allegiance to the 1899 Constitution, they are not imposing a dictatorship on the land. They are just finishing the historic revolution that started in 1899.
Is the 1899 Constitution still intact and it's still in effect
Yes.
legal?
Yes, when the 1935 Constitution was created, which I see as a U.S. puppet constitution, similar to the Japanese Constitution, which is also a Japanese puppet constitution, and the 1945 and 46 restoration of the Commonwealth was a puppet government organized by Paul MacNutt and General MacArthur. These are puppet constitutions. These are constitutions which does not actually represent the sovereign will of the people. Only the sovereign exercise of our founding fathers in 1899 can be truly construed as the free exercise of a sovereign people. And the
According to
1935 Constitution never has any provisions there that abrogated the 1899 Constitution.
That's right. There was kanina, nung nag-uusap kami nila Attorney Mel Magdamo, he precisely pointed out that out of all of our constitutions, the only constitution that stands, has not been abrogated, no, is the 1899 Constitution. Because the succeeding Constitution of 1935 did not abrogate the 1899. Oh, but all of them have been abrogated by succeeding constitutions. All the way to the 1987,
The 1987 Constitution has a provision on abrogation of previous constitutions.
that's right. But so now, the only constitution that had not been abrogated, had not been changed, and is still alive, is precisely the 1899 Constitution.
Now, there is a provision in the 1987 Constitution which abrogates the previous constitutions. But as I said, that is also trumped by the rule of constitutionalism, where the welfare of the people is the supreme law. And when an instrument, an instantiation of constitutionalism seen in a paper document called the 1987 Constitution is used by groups in the country to oppress the people by raping their electoral sovereignty, then that is a piece of paper that has to be discarded and should be truly termed a toilet paper as termed by President Digong.
Sana po may mga nakikinig na Armed Forces of the Philippines dito sa atin, no? Kasi napaka-importante po ang role pala ng Armed Forces of the Philippines ngayon, no? Dahil kung maintindihan po ng taong bayan, etong lahat ng ating mga nakaraan halalan ay may anomalya at hindi totoong kagustuhan ng taong bayan, no? Kailangan po meron tayong mekanismo para buwagin yung nakaraan konstitusyon na nagbibigay ng kapangyarihan sa COMELEC na hindi sila pwedeng imbestigahan. Nagtatago sila sa ating constitution na hindi sila pwedeng imbestigahan, no? At dahil dito, kailangan mabuwag itong ating saligang batas na 1987. At ang makakagawa lang nito ngayon ay sa palagay ko dalawa, kautusan ni Pangulong Duterte o a unilateral move on the part of the Armed Forces of the Philippines.
The President, as part of the armed forces, can do this. He is the de facto occupant of the power. And because of that, he is part of the group holding the guns in our society. He can do that. And he will not be in violation of his mandate at all, because he is also protecting the people. In his wisdom as the duly elected or the person right now in position of power, he can do that. He can choose to abdicate this power and give it with his blessings to other military people. And that would also be good. That can also happen if he wants to. We have to emphasize the fact that it is not the 1987 Constitution which empowers the military to intervene in our affairs. The 1987 Constitution just recognizes the fact that power in any society is held by those who exercise the monopolized use of force, which are the armed forces of that society. It is just an recognition of that reality. It is not the 1987 Constitution which empowers the military to intervene. So these people like this constitutionalist, I am not a lawyer, but this constitutionalist saying that they will have a constitution which will not have this thing anymore, they cannot legislate against the law of supply and demand in economics. They cannot legislate against the political reality that power always comes out from the barrel of a gun.
Hill, are you aware whether the Philippine Constitutional Association or PhilConSA has any position statement of what you have just extrapolated to us?
The PhilConsa, all these lawyers are bound by these procedural matters that train them in the law. And any kind of thinking that goes beyond the tradition of the constitutionalist Napoleonic Code tradition, which is going into the common law, is something that they will not entertain. In fact, I had a chat conversation with Juan Ponce Enrile himself, who is, I think, one who is well trained in the law. And he himself does not say, but we could not shift to the common law. We are not a common law thing. I told him, when before the British colonies of America rebelled against Britain, they were part of the common law.
Yeah, yeah.
So it is something, I said, the rule of law is not limited to the interpretation of a particular constitution, a particular jurisprudence. It is an interpretation of the three traditions of the rule of law, coming from the Napoleonic Code Roman law, the common law of Britain, and the Sharia law of the Mohammedans, of the Muslims. That is why in areas of our country where we have a preponderance of Muslim population, we're recognizing the Sharia law.
Would that common
This
law be
particular
recognized?
thinking is not common to the lawyers. The lawyers will tell you it's not, they cannot do
They
it.
don't think in
But a
those
military
terms.
man who understands this and who has the guts enough to act can lead the country out of this morass.
Okay. And this common law will be recognized by the international body, particularly like the United Nations, in the eventuality that we come into
It's
a
part of the
crisis.
self-determination principles of the United Nations. And if exogenous powers like the United States intervene in this process, then they are risking the resumption of the Philippine-American War.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay.
Wow. Well, I hope our listeners all over the world, our OFW friends, are able to absorb this, but this comes precisely at the right time, right before the SONA.
Mm.
The SONA, whatever is going to be disclosed in the SONA by the president, I guess is going to be very crucial in the coming 3 years of his administration. There will be a part where he might make an inventory of what he has achieved so far, but based on what he has been saying the past few weeks, wherein he precisely mentioned that the Constitution is just a piece of paper. He may be precisely, I was just thinking that he may be precisely thinking along the lines that you, Hill, are advocating. The other thing is, he has been said, and I heard him on television saying that, addressing himself to the military, saying that do not go on a coup d'etat on me. All we have to do is just tell me, we can sit down for a cup of coffee and I can turn over the administration of this government to you. And he was addressing himself to the military. And it seemed, this is not the first time that he had referred to that. No? To my mind, he is seriously considering something to that effect, no? And maybe motivated by the very same ideas that Mr. GIL Ramos is now presenting to us.
Yes, the president has said it so many times, and the most dramatic instant where he said this was during the graduation ceremonies of the PMA, the last one. He asked the cadets if you know what to do. If your country is not ruled properly, you know what to do.
Yeah, that
He
is.
said that. And then he also said in several occasions that I don't like Robredo. If I am to step down, I will turn this over to a military junta.
Yeah, he has
And
said
then he
that
also
as
said
well.
in several occasions also that I want a revolution because I cannot do anything without this revolutionary government. He also said that if we work under this constitution, even if he has 50 years, he will not be able to change the country.
Yeah.
So these are the statements of the president saying that he is chafing under this present situation. But right now, he is in a sense also a captive of the situation, and there are forces around the president that are friendly to the oligarchic plutocrats that control our country.
That's right.
That's why he also mentioned that he is really fighting his government. Because in a plutocratic society where wealth is king, where wealth is used to amass political power, those who get a beachhead in the political power structure will use the power structure to gain more wealth for themselves, so that in the next round of the pseudo contest called our elections for the benediction of the people supposedly getting their mandate, then they will be able to use the wealth to get themselves into more positions of power. So therefore, the president is finding the situation where it's so difficult for him to stamp out corruption because our system is corruption itself. The plutocratic system wherein wealth is rewarded and wealth is tolerated, and these manufactured congressmen and manufactured senators promote it and protect the perpetrators of such electoral fraud on our people, it becomes a situation, a Gordian knot, which can only be destroyed by cutting it entirely, the way as Alexander the Great did it.
Okay. Gil, in the eventuality that we come to that kind of a circumstance that we are in a crisis, what are the period of transition to normalize a situation? What are the steps necessary once, let's say, the ones who have the gun rule, and until how long will they stay in power, that the power be given to the people?
The rationale of taking over is because of electoral corruption.
Okay.
Therefore, the main mission of the military when they take over is to repair the assault on the electoral sovereignty of the people. Therefore, their first task is to be able to build a new electoral body that will conduct an election as speedily as possible. Maybe within the expiry of the mandated term of the president in 2022. If not, maybe a second cycle by another 3 years if they need more time to build a new electoral body. But I think local elections will continue because local elections is different from national elections. National elections where we are cheated and we are treated to a lot of manufactured congressmen and manufactured senators is a process of controlling national policy. But local elections has more credibility and more integrity than the national election process. Therefore, local elections should immediately be allowed by 2022. And then when the military takes over, and everybody should be told to swear allegiance to the 1899 Constitution. And therefore, everybody now should create a process of retrofitting all our jurisprudence and existing municipal laws into the parameters of the 1899 Constitution. We have experience in doing this in the transition from Marcos to Cory, and in the transition also between wherein we see a lot of presidential decrees of Marcos being adopted as part of the laws of the land. So this can be done in a similar way. The Constitution of the United States in 1776, they had been amended, I think, more than 14 times or 15 times already. So this can be done. Our Constitution can be, the 1899 seminal document, which is the 1899 Constitution, can be retrofitted to make it a reality. Now, the existing elected congressmen and senators, they can allow to exist, have the emoluments of office without necessary allowances, just their legal compensation, and they will remain as an advisory body to the military groups, and they will work in the process of fixing our electoral process. They'll be part of it, but they will have no legislative powers. The legislative powers will be under the control of the permanent council, which will be authorized by the 1899 Constitution. The 1899 Constitution, because of the particular conditions at the time, allowed the permanent council, also called the Hong Kong Junta, to make decisions, because at that time when the Americans assaulted our country, we were not able to hold the congressional meetings anymore. It was the Hong Kong Junta, or the Military Permanent Council, which was giving directives and reaffirming the directives of President Aguinaldo. And when he was captured in Palanan, it was President Malbar who took over. when President Malbar surrendered because of the Hues de Cuchillo and the scorched earth policy of the Americans, Macario Sakay declared himself president. So Macario Sakay was the last and the third president under the revolutionary setup of our historical period at that time. So this is the process that can be done. There is a natural process that can be followed based on our experience. It can be done practically. Legal technicians can make the necessary adjustments for the law, and the process of having a new electoral body is something that the military will work on. The military will have to surrender power back to the people because the main pretext for them to take over is to fix our electoral system.
Okay. Well, we have some messages coming from those that are that have been watching and listening to our discussion here. From Gloria Fatima de Guzman, watching po from London. Greetings from UK DDS. Grabe ang pandaraya.
Miss Norma Mena Cochin, watching from Abu Dhabi. Thank you, Katipunan Demokratikong Pilipino and guest, GIL Ramos, for educating us more about pandaraya of COMELEC and Smartmatic. God bless you more and KDP.
From Rodolfo Hen, awesome. Again, from Rodolfo Hen, keep it up, KDP. This page is very informative. From Norma Mena Coquin again, share po natin para maraming makaalam ng katiwalian ng COMELEC and Smartmatic. From Miriam Karikawa, good evening po. Sana makapasok KDP sa gobyerno dahil we need straight people like them. From Elmer Ecleo, maayong gabi sa tanan, mga Senador RJ, Butch at Toti. And from Celso Flores, Landayan, magandang gabi kay RJ at sa inyong lahat dyan. Mabuhay po kayo. Maraming salamat.
Meron pa po. Sa ilalim. Lin Nur, good evening. Watching from Hong Kong. Borge Behada, good PM Sir Toti Sir. Butch, mabuhay po. Justin Buhi, mabuhay po kayo. Rose Helasio, good evening, watching from Malaysia. Napakaganda po ng binanggit ni Ginoong GIL Ramos sa atin at napaka-importante po dahil ngayon ay Bisperas na po ng State of the Nation Address ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. At kung maalala po natin, binanggit niya makalipas ang halalan na nais niya na alisin na ang Smartmatic at palitan ng iba. Pero ang paalala nga po natin sa ating Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte na kinakailangan na ma-abolish ang mismong Commission on Election dahil ito ang ugat, hindi lamang po yung Smartmatic, pero bago po mangyari yon ay kinakailangan matanggal din ang konstitusyon, lalong-lalo na yung sinasabing 1987 Constitution na bunga po ng tinatawag na isang kudeta ng EDSA noong 1986. At malinaw po ang ipinapaliwanag ni Sir Gil sa atin na ang papel po ng sandatahang lakas ng Pilipinas ay tagapangalaga ng sambayanan at ng Estado. Ang layunin nito ay siguruhin ang ganap na kapangyarihan ng Estado at ang integridad ng pambansang teritoryo. Ito'y makikita sa Section 3 sa ating 1987 Constitution. Kaya legal na legal po ang binabanggit ni Sir Gil sa atin at napaka-importante po nito. At bukod po sa issue ng reforma sa halalan, ay hindi lang po yung halalan ang dapat na mareforma dahil ang mga kamay o galamay ng oligarkiya ay kitang-kita po sa ating buong ekonomiya. Ramdam na ramdam po ito, lalong-lalo na po sa larangan ng mga pampublikong pasilidad na ito ay kontrolado na ang halos lahat ng buhay ng bawat Pilipino.
Well, we're already running out of time and gusto ko lang sanang bigyan ng mataimtim na pasasalamat ang ating pong guest na si GIL Ramos, no? I know that he had slept only for 2 hours today, no? And but he took time actually to share with us what he has in mind, and very, very important information that we get from him, no? Which will, of course, we will be embodying dito po sa isang dokumento na ipipresenta bago po mag-SONA ang presidente, no? Ito po ang gagawin natin, at malaking bahagi ng ating pong ipipresent, ito pong naririnig nyo kay Ginoong GIL Ramos. At bago tayo magtapos, babasahin pa rin po natin itong mga iba pang mga mensahe ng ating mga nakikinig.
Galing po kay Alice Andoyo, watching from Abu Dhabi. Thank you all and God bless. From Rose Gilasio, hello, Toti, Casiño, thank you. From Don Zenitram, Sir GIL Ramos, what is your take on Duterte seemingly uninterested with BBM's protest? Ginong GIL, can you please give your remark?
I think there are forces involved, even within the rank of Duterte, that are not very friendly to the BBM protest. I think there are some people who would like to see a Sara Duterte presidency that will follow President Duterte, working against the immediate resolution of this process. I think the people have the right to demand from the PET an immediate resolution, whether they say it is Lenny Robredo who's the vice president or it's a BBM who's the president, who's the vice president. They have to do this, whatever the wherever the facts go, and they have to do this immediately, because the fact of the matter is that while this question of transition is not clarified, there is a very strong possibility of unrest, very strong possibility of chaos once something physical or suddenly Duterte is assassinated, for instance, or killed, or dies in an accident. The transition process is not clear. This has to be clarified immediately. It would be on their conscience if this whole thing explodes once the president had to vacate the position in one way or the other. Because right now, it is only the presence of the president as center of power which is holding this country together. Right now, his presence there and his continued popularity, because the people are seeing hope and some change in him, is what is holding us together. He cannot say all the things he wants to say in the SONA. So it behooves our group to say the things that the president cannot say in our before SONA delivery of our own statement. Because the president is constrained by the strictures of being president within the constitutional framework of the 1987 Constitution, which he wants to discard and he wants to get out of. But we have to help him do it. And that is the role that we have to play.
And is it that the PET is independent of the powers of the president, and therefore the PET has all the accountability on what decision they should pass on immediately?
The PET, supposedly, our protocols is that they are independent, that they can decide things on their own, and similar to the COMELEC, the procedures are protected within the constitutional procedures that are in our present de facto constitution. I call the 1987 constitution a de facto constitution because it is in force right now, despite the fact that it has already been obliterated in the past. Because this constitution just became a piece of paper when GMA took over the presidency from ERAP. This constitution became something that was just reimposed. It was a coup d'etat that was done when ERAP was taken out of office. This fiction of constructive resignation is just in the mind of Hilario Davide. He legislated that into jurisprudence by interpreting that constructive resignation of ERAP. At that time, the Constitution is already a piece of paper. And now, because it is being used by the COMELEC to protect its shenanigans, continued electoral rape of our democracy, it is really toilet paper. It has to be dapat ibasura na talaga yan. That is the only way. We want to tell Digong, smartmatic eradication is not enough. We have to abolish the COMELEC. But because of the constitutional protection afforded to the COMELEC by the 1987 Constitution, we also have to abolish the 1987 Constitution. It is a logical process that cannot be denied. It has to be done. And whether the president is up to it, we do not know. Whether some military men are able to do it, we do not know. Nobody has a legal mandate right now because of the continued rape of our electoral sovereignty, which divorced national policy candidates in our past election. The local election is another matter, and that is what has to be understood by the people, that the local elections will immediately proceed even after a military takeover, because the military will have to repair the process of national policymaker selections before they can allow a national policy level election for a presidency and for a parliament or a congress, whatever it is on a national policy level, to be reinstituted. But local elections will continue. You must remember that in the Philippines, the Cadiz Spanish Constitution allowed local elections since 1860. So our local elections is different from national policy elections. Marcos also recognized this when he declared martial law. He did not touch the local government structure. So the military should also understand this, that the local government election should continue. They should not be appointing local governors or local mayors all over the place. They should have the local people elect their candidates all the time while they repair the process of electoral selection for national policymakers, including the presidency or the prime minister of the land.
Very good.
Okay.
Okay, you go.
We'd like to add some more comments here. Gil, from Norma Mena Coquin, he would like to thank you, Sir GIL Ramos, for the very important information. From Vilma Razon, good evening po, sir, watching from Korea. From Gary Delantar, kailangan matanong nga si Justice Kagiya kung bakit wala pa yung resulta ng recount sa PET. From Beth Ariola, watching from Qatar. Again, from Gloria Fatima de Guzman, Bloody Kagiya is on holiday and just delaying everything regarding the case of BBM. Alice Andoyo, thank you, Sir. GIL Ramos, Sir Toti, Casiño, Butch, Valdes, KDP, mabuhay po kayo, and to RJ. All right, GIL, any last words to our viewers?
Well, thank you very much for the reception that you have and the ideas we are sharing here. And I think what we have to do is, since we are speaking mostly in English, we have to translate these ideas into the local dialects. Make the effort to talk in your local dialects. There are 12 major dialects in the Philippines.
Yeah.
These communications of KDP should be translated into Magindanaon, Tausug, Hiligaynon, Ilocano, Bicolano, Pampangueño, Pangalatok, all these things. Because our people have to know this. Make these documents available in the internet, have them printed, and distribute them to all barbershops of the country so that people will be aware that this is what is happening to the country right now.
That's right. Yes, we agree with you, of course. But this particular podcast will not end here. Of course, this will be archived and can be pulled out at any time by all of our viewers and listeners at any given time we want in the future. So there will be more and more people that would be watching this in the days to come. But this particular guesting that you have with us here, I hope that this is not the first and the last time, and I actually foresee that we will be getting to talk to you more and more often in the coming days and weeks.
Well, thank you very much.
And thank you as well. And sa ating mga sumusubaybay ngayong programa nito, maraming salamat sa inyong pagtangkilik sa KDP channel dito sa aming Talakayan Bayan. At sana po ay huwag po kayong magsawa at anyayahan niyo po ang inyong mga kamag-anak, mga kaibigan, kung anong dakong ng daigdig man sila, nasubaybayan nila ang aming mga paksa dito sa Talakayan Bayan.
Sana sa SONA ay mapakinggan po tayo ng lahat ng mga patriotikong kawal ng sandataang lakas ng Pilipinas para muling balikan ang kapangyarihan na nagsisimula sa taong bayan para sila ay mabigyan ng tunay na kalayaan at proteksyon. At sa State of the Nation Address ng mahal na Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte ay napakahalaga po ang mga damdaming bayan na kailangan po na maayos ang mga malalim na suliranin ng buong bansa natin. Ako po si RJ Javellana Jr. Nagpapasalamat dito po sa palatuntunang Katipunan Channel,
Talakayan Bayan.
Talakayan Bayan.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat.
Maraming salamat. Toti
Mabuhay GIL Ramos. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat din po. Thank you.